My name is Alistair Sterling, a detective with a keen eye for details and a passion for justice. The streets of London had brought me to many mysteries, but this was my most critical case to date. The royal crown, a symbol of power and unity, had gone missing. I began at Buckingham Palace, where the breath of history echoed in the halls. The entire staff was alarmed, and a sense of uncertainty filled the air. My initial interviews proved fruitless. All eyewitnesses seemed either clueless or too frightened to speak. However, I felt that someone somewhere knew the truth. With few leads in hand, I left the palace and plunged into London's underworld, into the concealed pubs and dimly lit alleys where the law of silence prevailed. In one of these dark corners of the city, a pub where the whispering secrets danced with the smoke in the air, I came across promising information. A man with a craggy face and flickering eyes spoke of a black market. The air was thick with tension as I reached the location. Under shrouded lamps, whispered words and clandestine glances exchanged owners. My senses were on high alert. I knew everyone here could carry a hidden truth. The night went by and I observed, listened, until finally, at the edge of my hearing, the word crown captured my attention. My heart raced as I eavesdropped on the conversation. An emaciated man with a nervous glance spoke of a hideout. I followed him inconspicuously through the nocturnal streets to an unremarkable house. A throbbing heart in my chest, I approached silently. The door creaked under my cautious hand, and I stepped into the darkness. The rooms were cold and quiet, only the breath of the night was audible. My steps were cautious, my gaze sharp. In a back room, I finally found it, the royal crown. Its brilliance filled the room with a mute glow. But victory was not yet complete. The thief had to be brought to justice. I left the hideout and resumed the pursuit, following every trace, every detail, until I finally faced a man whose eyes radiated the coldness of crime. The confrontation was a battle of wills, an interplay of questions and answers. My resolve was my weapon, my queries, my ammunition. He denied, contested, but the evidence piled against him. With every passing hour, with every damning piece of evidence, his facade began to crumble. Finally, as the morning broke, his resolve broke, and the confession escaped his lips. The case was solved, the crown was back, the perpetrator behind bars. London breathed a sigh of relief. The palace returned to peace. But I, Alistair Sterling, knew this was just a respite, that new secrets and new puzzles would await me. But for the moment, in the silence of the morning, I found satisfaction in the work done and in the restored order of the city. I, Detective Alistair Sterling, had just taken my first sip of morning tea when an urgent call came in. The Golden Falcon, a historic relic of immeasurable value, had vanished from the London Museum. I hurried to the scene, where a throng of police officers and forensic scientists were already scurrying about looking for clues. The initial investigations were disheartening. Despite comprehensive security measures, the thief had managed to remain undetected. My quest for answers led me through the shady alleys of London, past weathered facades and into dubious establishments. In a secluded bar, where the gin was sharp and the gazes were sharper, I first heard of a man named Reginald Blackwood. Rumors had it that he was a collector of looted art. My instincts told me he could be the key to solving this mystery. I spent the next few days locating Blackwood and found out that he resided in a dilapidated mansion on the outskirts of the city. The house, shrouded in thick fog and somber trees, seemed eerily quit, but I knew this was my only lead to find the missing falcon. I knocked on the massive oak door. The echo of my knocks resonated through the empty corridors before a harried maid opened the door. With some persuasion and the threat of legal consequences, she led me to Blackwood. In a dim room surrounded by antiques and paintings sat the man who had sparked my interest, Reginald Blackwood, a middle-aged man. His eyes seemed to be tracking my every move. We exchanged pleasantries while I tried to get a glimpse of his collection. My eyes were searching for a hint of gold, a clue about the falcon. After a while, Blackwood revealed that he knew about the falcon, but swore he had nothing to do with the theft. He claimed to be merely a collector, not a thief. As he spoke, I studied his face, looking for signs of deceit. During a prolonged conversation, he told me about an illicit art market in the city's catacombs. Artworks of dubious provenance were traded there. Blackwood suspected that the falcon might appear in that market. Armed with new information, I headed to the catacombs. The atmosphere there was oppressive, filled with whispers and shadows. My heart raced as I sneaked along the narrow corridors and inspected the stalls. My senses were on high alert, searching for the smallest hint. After hours of search, I finally discovered the Golden Falcon, hidden among other artifacts with a dealer named Mortimer Graves. My pulse quickened as I approached him. He was visibly surprised when he recognized who I was, but he maintained his composure. A brief but intense interrogation followed, and Graves confessed to having acquired the Falcon from an unknown man. Although I secured the Falcon, the actual thief was still at large, and I knew my investigations were far from over. I spent the next few days traversing London, looking for clues about the unknown man. I stumbled over more shadows of the underworld, and each discovery seemed to lead to more questions, but I was determined to solve the case and pursued relentlessly. Day by day, I delved deeper into the case. The traces led me through labyrinthine London, through hidden paths and abandoned buildings, until I finally stood in front of the thief's hideout. An eerie wind swept through the empty streets as I opened the door. Inside lurked darkness and silence, but my resolve to bring justice was stronger than any fear. A breathless fight ensued in which shadows mixed with light, but in the end I was able to subdue and arrest the thief, a man named William Thornfield. It had been a battle of wills, but truth had triumphed. The Falcon returned to the museum. Thornfield and Graves faced their just punishment, and a semblance of order returned to London. But I knew this was only the beginning. The city still harbored many secrets, and I was ready to uncover them.